Under the Arctic night, a shadow moves where maps go blind and sonars whisper. It is Russia's newest crown jewel, the Borei-A class ballistic missile submarine Knyaz Pozharsky, built to disappear, to lurk, and to terrify. And then, in a feat that sounds like a Tom Clancy plot punched up by Ukrainian comedians, the sub's secrets surfaced. On Telegram. Not rumors, not blurry screenshots, actual internal documents, crew rosters, procedures, even the boring stuff that only matters to people who plan missions or break them. If nuclear deterrence lives on mystery, Ukraine just switched on the floodlights. Here's the headline in plain language. According to reporting highlighted on August 4th, Ukraine's Military Intelligence Directorate HUR secured a trove of classified documentation on the Knyaz Pozharsky. Not speculation, HUR published pages of the material publicly. The Ukrainians won't say how they pulled it off, which, pro tip, is exactly how you keep your source breathing. But they did provide receipts, and they let the world ogle them. A stealth platform built to vanish became a case study in open source embarrassment. What was in the haul? Start with the human layer. The documents included the full crew list, names, roles, qualifications, and even fitness metrics. That's not trivia. That's targeting data for anyone who wants to map the team, profile strengths, or identify pressure points. Knowing who gets trusted on a platform like this says a lot about the platform itself. And then the plot deepens. Combat instructions, voyage planning, ship construction documents, survivability systems, how the sub is built to take a hit and what it's afraid of, plus standard operating procedures down to cargo handling and casualty care. There's even a report about a deformed radio buoy and extracts from the boat's schedule book. Those aren't just scraps. They're connective tissue that tell you how a machine lives day to day. In short, this wasn't a peek. It was a walkthrough with the lights on. Before this leak, the public picture of the Pozharsky was the curated museum tour, newest Borei-A in the fleet, cornerstone of the sea-based leg of Russia's nuclear triad, 16 launch silos for R-30 Bulava intercontinental missiles. Each missile is MIRV capable, designed to carry multiple warheads. The sub belongs to the Northern Fleet's 31st Submarine Division, based in the Murmansk region. And in a flourish of political theater, Vladimir Putin personally signed it into combat duty on July 24, 2025. Less than 2 weeks later, HUR put the curtain back down and then cut it to ribbons. For Moscow, this is more than a PR nightmare. Submarines exist to do exactly two things: hide and haunt. Hide from your sensors, haunt your decision-making. The fear is the point. What if there's a boomer out there right now? That question keeps adversaries cautious. Strip away the mystery, and you're not left with an ordinary ship. You're left with a very expensive compromise. Analysts put it bluntly, the essence of submarine warfare is secrecy. Without it, the platform's advantage collapses toward that of a surface vessel that can be tracked, predicted, and, if necessary, destroyed. Ukraine didn't sink the Pozharsky, it sank the Aura. Let's pause for a quick reality check. No, the sub didn't magically get decloaked for all time. It still carries nuclear-tipped capability. It still dives deep. But the leak gives adversaries a playbook for imposing risk, for monitoring crew rotations, for anticipating patrol patterns, and for designing smarter anti-submarine campaigns against a very specific hull. Imagine the world's scariest escape room, except someone just posted the solutions on social media. That changes behavior. It forces redesigns, scrubbed procedures, and probably a lot of paperwork with the words urgent, interim, and don't let the boss see this draft. Now, the awkward part for the Kremlin: what do you do with a compromised strategic asset? You can't just chalk it up to kids these days and their leaks and shove off on patrol. With the crew exposed and operating procedures circulating, the safest move in any competent navy is to dock the boat, swap crews wholesale, revalidate clearances, and update tactics, techniques, and procedures on a tight clock. That alone, weeks to months of downtime, dense deterrence, clogs schedules, and throws logistics into a blender. It also implies your counterintelligence is leaking like a screen door on a submarine. Ironic, yes. Hilarious for Kiev, also yes. And just when Moscow needed a victory lap, its triad was already hobbling. In recent months, the air leg took hits, from strikes that allegedly damaged bomber fleets to infrastructure issues at key submarine bases after extreme weather events. On land, headline ICBM tests have face-planted in public view more than once. Into that fragile moment, this maritime humiliation lands like a depth charge. It's not that Russia can't fire, it's that the credibility of how, when, and how reliably is eroding. Strategic ambiguity, the fog that makes threats bite, burns off under bright lights. How did Ukraine pull it off? QR isn't talking, and they shouldn't, but the possibilities tell a story. Maybe it's a deep human source, someone inside the program, a contractor with sticky fingers, a crew member who decided rubles weren't worth the risk. There's precedent. Corruption has eaten through Moscow's war effort like salt water through cheap steel. Bribes to dodge the front, kickbacks on procurement, volunteer funds vanishing into pockets. It all signals a system that swaps integrity for cash and slogans for performance. In such an ecosystem, the most sensitive submarine in the fleet doesn't need a James Bond heist. It just needs the right envelope sliding across the right table. Or maybe it's tradecraft, the kind that creeps through maintenance chains, logistics lockers, and comms rooms, copying documents between official stamps and coffee breaks. Remember, HUR didn't just claim, they published. That suggests confidence in the material and in their ability to protect how they got it. Any way you slice it, Ukraine demonstrated reach inside the one place Russia always assumed it could deter. Even as its ground forces bled and its air power was harried, underwater was supposed to be safe. Now it's just wet. Operationally, what does this unlock? Start with counter-patrol planning. If you understand the boat's training rhythms, watch bills, casualty drills, and logistics cycles, you can predict the human tempo. People are the loudest thing on any ship. Their habits show you when to listen harder. If you've seen survivability schematics, you can tailor torpedo settings, decoy timing, and deception to stress exactly what the designers feared most. If you've read the SOPs for cargo transfer or medevac, you know the awkward windows when hatches open, when small boats approach, when watchstanders are split between tasks. A single paragraph in a manual can be the bridge between theory and a real-world intercept. Strategically, the fear factor goes from dark ocean with monsters to we know which coves the monster likes and what snacks it packs. That reframes NATO planning too. Allies can share the burden of tracking, push ASW assets to likely lanes, and refine search patterns with fewer wasted flight hours and more confidence in their algorithms. Even if you never catch the Pozharsky, you force it to operate more conservatively, burn more time in quiet modes, avoid certain waters, and check over its shoulder. A submarine that hesitates deters less. A submarine that deters less costs more than it's worth. And yes, Kyiv will exploit the political theater. Publishing even a slice of the documents isn't just a taunt, it's a signal to investors, partners, and publics. Ukraine's intelligence services can hit you where you think you're untouchable. The next time Western officials debate a weapons package, they're not just arming a front line. They're backing an espionage shop that can reduce a strategic boomer to a very expensive group chat. Somewhere in Moscow, a flag officer just learned what a Telegram channel is, and it was not a fun briefing. Let's talk scale. The Borei-A was meant to be the sleek future of Russian sea-based deterrence. Each hull carries Bulava missiles intended to shrug off defenses and deliver multiple warheads. In messaging terms, the class is the flex. We can reach you. But one boat's exposure bleeds into the class. If your construction methods and survivability choices are out in the open, observers can infer across sister ships. A leak isn't a hole in a single hull. It's a crack running through the entire design philosophy. If you're counting on shadows, any light is a weapon. How does Russia respond? Expect the choreography, investigations with impressive titles, scowling statements about external interference, a few performative arrests, and a blizzard of updates to protocols that will read like a new phone's terms and conditions. There will be pressure to reshuffle crews, because if Ukraine knows who mans your reactor, your launch team, your sonar room, those people are now liabilities. And if you're a sailor who just landed his dream billet on a brand new SSBN, congratulations. You may be reassigned to a desk that smells like old pencils. Meanwhile, Kyiv has shown a taste for maritime sabotage, hitting Russia's shadow fleet of oil carriers at range with quiet, deniable methods. If you're the Pozharsky's captain, you've now got to consider not just P-8s or attack subs, but also the very human possibility of a well-timed accident far from Ukrainian shores. The line between espionage and things that go boom at inconvenient times is thin, and it just got thinner. If that makes some viewers squeamish, understood. It also makes Russian planners sweat. In In naval warfare, sweat is the currency of caution. Somewhere, a Russian admiral is asking whether the crew fitness data included leg day. If your launch officer skipped squats, is that grounds for a safety stand down? Asking for a friend who cannot confirm or deny a newfound gym policy. Back to business. The brilliance of Huar's play is what it doesn't do. It doesn't trigger Article 5. It doesn't cross red lines. It doesn't even require a missile. It replaces fear with knowledge, and knowledge travels cheaply. Governments read it. Analysts read it. Sailors gossip about it. The next time the Pozharsky leaves port, every satellite watcher will be counting dots. Every ASW crew chief will be sharpening checklists, and every diplomat will quietly subtract a few points from Russia's intimidation score. That's power projection, Ukrainian style, loud results, quiet method. There's an irony here. Russia's war machine has leaned on nuclear innuendo precisely because its conventional performance in Ukraine has been uneven and, at times, shambolic. But nuclear threats only work when they feel both possible and unpredictable. Failed ICBM tests, battered air bases, and a compromised flagship boomer tell a different story. Capability that exists on paper, confidence that evaporates in practice. It's not a collapse, it's a credibility leak. And in deterrence, credibility is hull integrity. Lose enough of it, and eventually water finds its way in. One more note on the information itself. The presence of maintenance and casualty procedures might sound bureaucratic, but they illuminate where crew attention goes under stress. If adversaries know that a deformed radio buoy triggered X checklist items in Y order, they can design decoys and distractions to overload the sequence. It's not about hack the sub, it's about hack the humans, and the machine will follow. That's the unglamorous heart of modern warfare. Decisions at 0-300, made by tired people, nudged by an opponent who studied your binder. Humor intermission number 2. If you've ever lost the Wi-Fi password and had to reset your router, you already understand the dread of a systems reboot on a deadline. Now imagine doing it 400 feet deep with a missile roster that reads like the world's worst grocery list. No pressure. So yes, laughter in Kyiv is warranted, but so is caution. Russia still has nuclear weapons and a sprawling submarine enterprise, and Moscow will respond. The only question is how effectively and how fast. This is a marathon of adaptation, not a sprint to collapse. Yet the direction of travel is unmistakable, toward a Russia forced to spend more to get less from its most prized deterrent. That's good strategy. Strategy that compels your opponent to overpay for basic functions is strategy that wins time. And time, for Ukraine, is oxygen. Let's widen the lens. Submarines are secrets made of metal, but their aura is made of psychology. Generals write doctrines. Sailors write legends. We were right beneath them. They had no idea. That's the story every strategic sub once told in enemy wardrooms. When Her tossed the Pozharsky's paperwork into the public square, it rewrote the legend. Suddenly, everyone has a clue. In an enterprise where doubt is a weapon, certainty is a disarmament treaty you didn't mean to sign. For NATO planners, that certainty translates into options. ASW aircraft can tighten search boxes. Allied subs can loiter in smarter places. Surface ships can time their sensor sweeps to likely transit windows, rather than wasting hours in empty water. Imagine telling your P-8 crew, "We're not guessing. We're pattern matching against how this boat trains and fights." That doesn't guarantee a contact, but it increases the value of every gallon of fuel and every sonar ping. War is logistics. Intelligence makes logistics efficient. Conversely, for Russia, every safeguard now fights friction. Swapping crews is not like changing a tire. It's like transplanting an organ. Teams that practice together, sonar techs who can finish each other's sentences, will be broken up. New teams, less cohesive, will take their place. You can mitigate that with intense workups, but that burns calendar and cash. And while you're burning both, your adversary is harvesting confidence from your pause. There's a reason dockyards are quiet. Quiet is where deterrence goes to nap. Then there's the corruption piece, touchy to say out loud in Moscow, unavoidable everywhere else. Leaks of crew avoidance bribes, recruitment bounties, and patriotic funds that mysteriously never reach the front paint a system where loyalty is negotiable and secrecy is a commodity. Even if none of that directly touched the Pozharsky, the perception it could have is poison, and perception matters as much as reality when you're selling fear to adversaries. If people think they can buy their way into your safe, auditors will assume someone already did. Somewhere in a Russian procurement office, a colonel is issuing a stern memo titled, "Stop selling the secrets." It will be printed, stamped, filed in triplicate, and accidentally left at a cafe. Let's not undersell the risk Ukraine is taking by flaunting the documents. Publishing even a fraction invites questions. Are you burning a source? Are you daring Russia to roll up a network? Possibly. But intelligence is also theater. By showing a controlled slice, HUR maximizes strategic pain for Moscow while minimizing operational exposure. And the message to other Russian insiders is electric. If you've got more, bring it. We know what to do with it. In a war of wills, that invitation is worth a battalion. Maritime implications ripple beyond one fleet. Every navy that sails with a classified binder nodded grimly when this dropped. Modern submarines are miracles of engineering, but they're also dense bureaucracies of procedures, diagrams, and checklists. If those papers walk, the boat limps. Expect navies worldwide to tighten document controls, rethink onboard data storage, and revisit how much gets digitized. Everyone loves e-manuals until one ends up on your rival's morning brief. Then you love lockboxes again. Meanwhile, Ukraine's knack for offshore sabotage, quiet hits against oil carriers in Russian ports thousands of kilometers from Kyiv, suggests the battlefield for the Pozharsky isn't just the Barents Sea. It's the parking lot, the pier, the shipyard, the provisioning warehouse. When a platform's crew list is public, your adversary's human reach is suddenly long. A fake vendor here, a compromised guard there. Espionage is built from ordinary doors. The documents point to those doors. We should also talk about NATO's classroom. This leak is a graduate seminar in Russian naval thinking. Survivability choices reveal what they're scared of. Construction notes reveal industrial constraints. Combat instructions reveal operational doctrine, how aggressively they patrol, how conservative they are near choke points, how they think about escalation at sea. That is catnip for Western planners who have spent decades gaming Russian behavior with models. Swap an assumption for a fact, and the model's predictions sharpen like a knife. It's tempting to declare the sea leg crippled and call it a day. Caution, history punishes hubris. Russian submariners are professionals. Designers learn. Security organs, when humiliated, can be terrifyingly efficient. But humiliation has already done its work on the big stage. A national symbol of invulnerability got pantsed. That matters. Every future Kremlin threat that leans on, "You don't know where our subs are," will now be met with, "We know enough." That's not checkmate. It's something subtler and often more useful. Tempo control. Tempo control wins you initiative, and initiative buys you options. Options like dictating when a sub dares to deploy, where it feels safe, and how long it stays out. It lets you schedule maintenance pressure and exercise timing to collide with adversary patrol cycles. It lets you accelerate technology trials that exploit documented survivability gaps. If you suspect a certain pipe vibrates under certain loads and makes a certain noise, your buoys and algorithms can go hunting for that noise. Cartoons taught us to look for periscopes. Modern ASW listens for signatures that only a leak can describe. Somewhere, a data scientist just named a machine learning model Bulava Buster. We salute you, brave nerd. So where does this leave Ukraine? With a reputation for audacity and a resume to match, the OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act, works best when you force your opponent to spend cycles on observation and orientation while you're already acting. This leak flips Moscow's loop into slow motion. Dock the sub, vet the people, rewrite the books, retrain the crew, replan the patrol. That's months of orientation while Kyiv squeezes more aid, more air defenses, more long-range strike options, and more intelligence cooperation from partners impressed by results that didn't require a single missile launch. And where does it leave Russia? With a choice between paying the bill to restore deterrence credibility or pretending the stain isn't there. Paying the bill means real counterintelligence work, painful personnel changes, and investments in document security that don't produce parades. Pretending it's fine means living with a strategic asset that everyone quietly discounts. Either way, the Shadow Fleet intimidation game took a hit, and the world saw it. That kind of reputational damage has compound interest. Big picture, this moment slots into a year where Russia's nuclear narrative took multiple punches. Troubled ICBM tests and bomber-basing vulnerabilities on land and in the air, now a humiliation at sea. Even if each punch is survivable, the accumulation changes how adversaries price risk. It pulls some escalatory bite out of Moscow's words. Strategic stability depends on credible forces. Strategic messaging depends on believable theater. Right now, the theater's curtains have scorch marks. Submarines like the Knyaz Pozharsky were designed to keep leaders awake at night, staring at ceilings, imagining silent killers under the waves. After this leak, some of those leaders will still stare, but now they'll imagine Ukrainian case officers with USB drives and naval architects asking for overtime. It's hard to terrify your enemies when you're busy reassuring your own. That's the quiet power of what just happened. The boat still dives, the missiles still sit in their tubes, but the fear, the precious, hard-earned fear, has been replaced by knowledge. And knowledge, once public, is the one torpedo you can't recall. Ukraine just stole secrets meant to live in the deep and dragged them into daylight. The strategic question now isn't whether the Pozharsky can carry warheads, it's whether it can carry mystique. Because the next time power politics dives below periscope depth, the side that knows more will win more. And thanks to a very public humiliation, the side that knows more is not the one with the newest submarine.